Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be building this welding cart. Because welding carts are so expensive, I decided to pick up this service cart for $44, and I'm going to see if I can convert this into a welding cart that works for my welder and dual tanks. So if we pop this open, let's see if I can show you what is inside. So obviously you have your casters and wheels and whatnot. So I'm going to do a little bit of measuring and see if I can build a lower frame to this. Because obviously the size of this is not big enough to hold the welder as well as the welding tanks. So a little bit of, I don't know, engineering, and we'll see if I can make something out of this. Okay, so this is the plan. This is the bottom panel from the cart, and you can see I have some 1-inch aluminum square stock, and I'm going to build a frame which is going to sit right at the edge against that seam there. And this outer bar is going to be 38 inches long and overhang to about here, because this is where I'm going to have the tanks at the back. The inner bracing, which goes between here and here, is 14 1/8. So I'm going to go and cut these up, and then I'm going to at least attempt to TIG weld these together. So I'm going to use this DeWalt metal cutting blade. I know it's made more for steel than aluminum, but whatever, I'm going to give it a shot. The reason why I went with this one though is because it's rated to 6,400 RPM, which is important because you don't want to have a blade that can only go to like 4,000 RPM when your chop saw is going to spin, you know, around 6,000. I think this one's 5,800, so just something to be aware of.
I cut the square tubes on 45-degree angles so I wouldn't have any open ends once welded together. I fouled off the flashing on the outside and inside. I made sure the bars were the same length for the best fitment. Of course, with aluminum, it is imperative to clean off the oxidation. I used a dedicated wire brush.
So everything is set up and cleaned and ready to weld. Honestly, I have yet to TIG weld aluminum with any kind of success, so the chances of this going good are not great. But we're going to give it a shot anyways. I have my welder set to 125 frequency and 60 amps. Maybe just do it a little bit down here. I was worried I was going to burn through on the start right here, so I was a little bit too far inside. Hopefully I can fix that when I come around the inside of this corner, and maybe I can wrap it a bit.
I found myself struggling with the start of my welds. Perhaps I didn't use enough amps to form a puddle quickly enough, or perhaps I was too concerned with burning through the corners and kept starting a few centimeters inwards. A few things I'll need to work on. I also found welding without having something to rest my hand on extremely difficult, as I didn't have much control with the torch or filler rod. This was also the first time I ever TIG welded left-handed. Honestly, it wasn't too uncomfortable. Fillet welds have been disastrous for me, so this was good practice.
So I've completed the frame. The welding was very hit and miss. In fact, I had to take a break for a full day because I was getting so frustrated with my welding. As you can see, you know, it's just not very good. What I was also doing is some of the weld would go okay, but I would have like my starting point, I'd miss it, and I'd have to come back and fill it, and it would look like garbage. So in some of these areas, like there were some big gaps on this last piece. So the fact that I was able to actually weld that up today, I'm relatively happy with that. And also, up until today, I was never able to actually get a successful fillet weld. So the fact that I actually managed to do 2 of them, I'll take it. The plan now is to grind down the welds so that the frame will sit flush against the bottom of the cart. So I'll do that with like a grinder or whatever and get on to assembly.
I positioned the frame over the bottom of the cart, drilled some holes, and bolted it together.
For the extension of where I'm going to put the gas tanks, I chose just to use a piece of plywood. I think it'll work well.
I was then able to start assembling the cart itself.
To keep the gas tanks kind of positioned, I made a template out of cardboard, and I'm just going to cut it out of just some poster board, as I think that should be strong enough, as it's not really a structural piece. But yeah, that should be enough to just keep it in place.
After a quick coat of black paint, I bolted the poster board sheet to the upper shelf.
So I'm now ready to assemble the rest of the cart. The first thing I have to do is put the welder in, and I have to put that in first, because if I put the tanks in first, there's going to be too much weight in the back and it's going to tip. Now I may end up putting like a leg at the back of that just so it can't tip, but we'll see if it's needed once the weight is in.
I then moved on to assembling the upper portion of the cart and tightening it all down. Lastly, I installed some hooks that I could hang the cords on, which is necessary for any level of organization.
Alright guys, that is the finished product. I think it turned out pretty good. Of course, I'll have to actually use it and put it into practice to see what works and what doesn't. There are a few things that'll probably change right away. One is I'll likely go to a strap rather than the bungee cords. Not that this is insecure or anything, it's just a little bit more safe. I may add a peg to the back here just to ensure that if it does want to tip, it's going to stop. But what I'll probably end up doing is throwing some front weight to the front here, just to get the balance a little more front heavy so it won't want to tip. I might notch the siding here or elevate the welder up so that I can get better access to this panel. And I might add, you know, a couple more hooks or something like that. But overall, I don't know, I'm pretty happy with it. How much did it cost? Well, the cart cost $44. The aluminum square tubing was $42.50, and I spent about $30 in nuts and bolts and these little pegs right here. Grand total, $116.50 Canadian, which is a lot less than what I could find online. Not to mention, it can hold dual tanks, which is a huge thing for me. All these other tanks or these dual tank carts that I could find were like $450. It was insane. So great bang for the buck. Also, if you're new to welding, build a welding cart. It's a great first project. It definitely was a good project for me. But yeah, if this helps you out at all, if you like the video, hit the thumbs up, subscribe for more videos, and thanks for watching.